I made a vow to myself last year that I'll only work with people that I believe in, that I care about, that I could see myself being friends with, that I want the best for their family. I am very strict about that. And I have a 2-strike rule with my business where if you treat me or anyone that works with me with a level of disrespect twice, then we end the contract.
Welcome to the Build It to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on their journey from millions to billions. And we believe that the key to scaling and compounding your wealth and life starts every single day with a mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Our ultimate goal is to help you scale and compound your wealth and life so you can give more or all of it away. Hey, I'm your host today, Brett Swartz, and every episode we feature the world's top entrepreneurs, millionaires, and billionaires, and they shared their secrets and wisdom with us so we can all scale and grow and make a bigger impact. I'm excited about our next guest. He's out of the great state of California these days by way of San Diego, but by way of actually Canada. Okay, kind of cool. And he's going to teach us some stuff today. In fact, he's the founder of Gray Smoke Media. He has a background as a TV and radio producer and a publicist. He has managed over $3 billion in classification claim communications, and he spent a decade mastering media buying, managing over $50 million in spend and digital marketing, achieving the proverbial 10,000 hours of practice and so much more. Please welcome to the show with me, Jordan Whelan. Jordan, how are we doing?
Brad, how are you? I'm in America's finest city. I've been here for 9 weeks. I'm adjusting, but it's nice here. It's really great.
You know, it is a beautiful city for sure, but it definitely different than most places. I went to school in Point Loma for a couple of years, and my wife went to San Diego State for a couple of years. So we've got some history there. But yeah, beautiful place. That being said, for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us just a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Sure. I sort of have a very circuitous background, I would say, probably more than most of your guests. I started in radio and TV production when I was about 23 years old. I did radio and TV production, then did a newspaper column, and then sort of went into public relations, which is sort of where a lot of people go after they've sort of paid their dues in that industry. And then about 12 years ago, my first client was Diamond & Diamond, which is Canada's largest personal injury firm, also Canada's largest real estate law firm. And I started with them when they were 8 people. They're about 550 now. And in the beginning, I was just their publicist, but I sort of self-taught. I was teaching myself various aspects. I started with their PR, and then they said, "Can you do our media buying?" And I said, "What's that?" And I sat down and taught myself that. And then they said, "Could you do our SEO? Could you do our social media?" And in a period of about a decade, I had taught myself 6 or 7 careers, which then led to various clients reaching out to me. And my skill set's very unique in the sense that it combines, we can leverage media. But what I learned was it all sort of worked together, meaning if I was able to get a client a PR hit, it then came into, okay, how do we get that on page 1 of Google? How do we leverage that? How do we move that through social channels? How do we leverage that for SEO, et cetera, et cetera? And I started to realize there was all these various facets of marketing that I could kind of tie together in one marketing mix. And that's what Gray Smoke Media is. The idea is don't hire 5 agencies and try to get some sort of symbiosis going between them, and the drama and the management and all that. Come to us. We'll have a unique marketing recipe for you through our track record. And essentially that's what I had done for about a decade. And then last year I sort of niched it down to just lawyers. Lawyers tend to be actually great clients because they don't bother you. They're billing hourly. They're very, to the point, which I like. And also there's a lot of lawyers that don't have the time to market and also don't really know what they don't know. And so we still do take on marketing clients that, we can do something for that's interesting. We took on a pharmaceutical company last year that was publicly traded and came up with a great recipe for them. But largely we focus on lawyers and scaling lawyers, particularly personal injury lawyers.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So this is like media market expert and basically someone who can, I'm looking at your website here, like you use 3000x, the leads up to with law firms, that is, and perhaps even with others, and featured on Forbes, Yale Entrepreneur, Yale University, Yale, all this cool stuff. So, all right, let's dive into this, this world, right? What would you say is the biggest secret when it comes to, 10xing the leads that most groups are just haven't figured out yet?
It starts with largely most people don't know their unique value proposition. So, I don't really take on clients where they're coming to me in stage one. I sort of developed a business where I want to get to the final echelon, and that's the kind of clients we take on. But I'm amazed by the amount of people who come to me and say, "I'm a great lawyer. I have a great team. We have great reviews on Google." And I say, "Great. Well, what is the value proposition here? How have we branded this?" And many of them haven't thought about that. So it sort of starts with that. It starts with a functioning website that requires a large capital investment. I really don't think you can nowadays have a great website for under 25,000. And that to me is kind of on the low end. And then I sort of look for a client that's already sort of optimized the sites for conversions and various things there. But I'm not of the belief that you necessarily have to outspend your competitor. I think it all comes down to creativity. I mean, about 3 years ago, one of my clients had a competitor who was running a campaign where they had kind of used these buzzwords over and over, and but they weren't trademarked, and they were running a multi-million-dollar ad campaign, and they asked me to essentially neutralize it. And what I was able to do is sort of use those keywords and optimize them on SEO so that when people kept searching for this particular brand over and over, remembering the keywords, they would Google those words, and I would basically take that traffic and redirect it to my client's website. So it's creativity at the end of the day. There are things you can do, but it really comes down to how do I, if my marketing budget's half of my clients, what can I do to sort of leverage that, find different ways around that? I mean, right now, I'm a musician. I started last year. I've got about 3 million streams on Spotify, and right now I'm driving 25,000 clicks a month to my Spotify using a method that no one else has ever thought of, that I kind of keep to myself and I use for a couple of my clients. But there's various traffic sources out there that people don't think of. They're all sort of doing the same thing. They're trying to, let's spend $70 a click on AdWords with these 5 competitors and wonder why I don't get ahead. So when people come to us, it's really about how can I creatively use your money? How can I stretch it? How can I get a better negotiation with the ad buyers? And I'm kind of building around that, but it really does require a creative mind at the end of the day.
Okay. All right. So it sounds creativity is obviously key here. It also sounds like knowing your value proposition. I want to dive into that a little bit here. So do you mean like your unique niche or your unique way that you solve the problem, right, for the customer? I think sometimes people maybe get those two things confused. They go, what's unique about me, being like the lawyer or the business, right? Or versus what's the unique way that you solve the problem for them? So can you define what you mean by your value proposition?
I think when it comes to lawyers, it's a personal connection, particularly with personal injury. You're getting a person who's quite distressed. They may have had their whole financial world, personal life turned upside down, and then I'm coming to you. I think the first thing you want to overcome when you're a lawyer is not to become pompous or arrogant. You want to be quite approachable. But largely, when you think of entertainment or, the music I make, it's about looking at people and saying, why do I like you? The reason women like Beyonce largely is because she makes them feel a certain way. She makes them feel empowered, unstoppable, etc. So when I go to your website, if you're going to be my divorce lawyer, what do you make me feel? Do you make me feel like you're not approachable? Do I look at the photos that you've put on your website and think, God, these people don't have my back? And then you put it into words. It's all one thing, right? It's the branding, it's the colors. If you go to graysmokemedia.com, clearly the idea is elite marketing, a little bit of mystery going on there, but it's how do I make you feel? So I would ask basically a client that came to me, what's unique about you and what do you make people feel? And when it comes down to particularly Diamond & Diamond, who's a client of mine, we've developed a brand that's the people's law firm. We're approachable for all kinds of people. That upper echelon of society usually doesn't need to Google and find a lawyer because they reach out to their social circles and their friends. But for most people, they're trying to feel seen and heard, and they can figure that out in about 30 seconds on your website.
Okay, that's really fascinating. So I'm curious, Jordan, growing up, like your EQ and your ability to connect and see these things that most people don't see, was that just kind of a natural gift that you had, or how did you hone that over the years?
I'd say my intelligence is very isolating, and that sounds quite arrogant, but yes, I think it's my social intelligence is quite high. I took a test when I was 12 where I was going to skip a grade, and that's kind of what I specialize in, understanding people. I would say it's a bit of a nightmare in social situations. It's almost telepathic in a way that I could sort of get ahead of people, but it's allowed me to excel in 5 different careers. That's what I'm good at, is understanding people's what drives them psychologically, spiritually, and sort of connecting with them on a certain level. And that's what we're doing. We're not just buying media. We're not just doing SEO. We're not, it's really coming down to who are we? What are we selling? What do we provide to the world? And, one of the things that really hit me, I made my clients millions of dollars. Something hit me last year. I had worked with people that hadn't made me feel good, that had taken advantage of me, had spoken to me in certain ways, my clients, etc. And I'm in a interesting, more like empowered position right now where I sort of say I'll only work with people that I believe in, that I want their families to do well, their friends to do well. On a spiritual level, I need to feel like I'm helping people, not just driving millions of dollars in marketing to their companies. But I will tell you, one of the things that's so interesting is when I have clients come to me is they haven't asked these questions. They've run a business for 12 years. They've made $50 million, and they've never thought why they're interesting, why anyone would contact them. They've never analyzed their customers. They've just simply run ads. And that only gets you so far. You're never going to get to that final echelon of building a national brand if that's how you operate.
Oh, so much wisdom here. If you want to learn more about what Mr. Jordan Whelan is doing, Whelan, you can go to graysmokemedia.com. That's graysmokemedia.com. So you said the first secret was definitely, knowing your unique value proposition, right? And then also building and investing into an amazing website that is optimized, at least 25,000. And then you said the key is creativity. Let's dive into that a little bit more. So when you say creativity, what is, I guess, the secret to being creative? How much of it is looking at your top competitors and finding out where you can counteract, right? How much of it is just, hey, focus in your lane and what you do great? How much of it is bringing in client testimonial stories and being creative with that? Walk us through a little bit of that mindset.
Sure. So I do a competitor analysis. The first thing I do when I have a client come to me, I can look at your competitors on the SEO side. I can see their content strategy. It's obviously all public. Then I can use various softwares to figure out what's driving 5,000 to 6,000 people a month to their website. And then I can figure out from that, how can I basically steal that traffic? On the SEO side, it's actually quite easy to do, because I can see publicly that if your competitor is getting, if they wrote an article that's driving 3,000 to 4,000 people a month to their site, then I know your conversion rate's 1% to 2%. I can sort of work backwards and say, well, I can get you, $200,000 to $300,000 in new revenue by month 3 just by doing this. That would be what you could do on the first side of things. The second thing is you could build a brand pack. You could basically figure out what the fonts on your site, the colors, how they make people feel. Do they make them feel comforted? We know that red, blue, various colors make people feel certain ways. So I would sort of work on that. The third thing I would do is fix the architecture of your site in terms of SEO, in terms of picking up easy traffic. And one of the things that's really interesting is the amount of people that don't optimize their local SEO. So, the Google My Business page, if you basically can put new content, you can optimize it for keywords, you can optimize actually reviews that your clients leave for keywords. So if they left, this guy's a great car accident lawyer in San Diego, you would immediately start to rank for that more on the local side of things. And that's free traffic that you're just going to pick up. Thousands of people every day are sort of cycling through on that. And I actually optimized for a client probably 3 months ago. We just took it over and we just went to town on it, and easily was able to drive about $800,000 in new revenue from traffic that was already there. It was already just going to your competitors, but we were just, again, more creative. We looked at what they were doing from the analysis, and we sort of said, oh, this is how they're getting their traffic. Let's just basically reverse engineer that. And then when it comes to sort of media buying and PR and stuff like that, there's a couple things. I mean, if you want to get in the news, you need to figure out a creative way. Then you would outsource that to a PR firm or someone like us to make yourself interesting enough that you're clickable, you're a headline, you're, something interesting that people care about. I'm working with a friend right now who's running a business, and we're sort of trying to capitalize on the idea that right now everyone's trying to get off their phones and trying to get back to in-person interaction, and then sort of distilling that down to a media hook where it will just move. And the way the media works largely is, if you can be smart enough that you get one media hit in the New York Post, they're all going to feed off each other, and then you'd leverage that for other opportunities. So you can sort of see how it all sort of comes together in one mix, and why I sort of started the company that I did, in that you could have 7 phone calls with different agencies and have them try to do this all together. But I'm trying to create a business where you sort of come to us and outsource your CMO role, and you can pay a great CMO $275 a year, or you can hire us to basically take it over and call me on a Thursday at 10 p.m. at night, and I'll pick up your call. It's more of a white glove sort of service.
Awesome. I love it. I love everything I'm hearing, and I love the creativity side of this thing, and also the practical side of it, right? Like using keywords in your Google My Business. Like, hey, if you have a client testimonial, you already know they love you and they're going to leave a testimonial. Why not say, hey, would you add a couple of these keywords, or how about we rewrite this, and you can edit it however you'd like, right? But here are some keywords that we'd like to keep in. Let them post the thing, and now, boom, that 5-star review they're already going to leave, it's more strategic, and now It's highly searchable. That makes total sense to me. And then also, just getting very practical with the competitors analysis, right? Saying, hey, what's already working for them? Let's reverse engineer it. Let's create either some articles or some things, or maybe buying some media there, buying some keywords there to drive that revenue in real time. And the last thing you said here, which I think leads to the next question, which is, media buying and PR. How much of this is personal brand versus, company marketing? How much of this is building a media company around personal brand versus traditional marketing for the company, right? Walk us through like that mindset or that strategy there.
Are you talking about sort of, are we going to brand the CEO as their own sort of
Correct.
thing? Oh, okay. It depends on the person. Some people are very socially anxious. They don't want to be out there. One of the problems is when you brand let's say, law firm around a particular person, if anything goes awry, or if they become social anxious, or even if their life falls apart, they're then the face of your brand. And good luck trying to sell a brand where the person won't show their face, won't go out in public. I have had clients that basically need to walk that back now. And that's very difficult when you've purchased millions of dollars of media and production, and you're on buses and TV and radio, and then you have to go drop 50 grand to basically redo it all. So I don't recommend that unless you're that type of person. I don't think a lot of people actually have the constitution to take public scrutiny. I think it's a little bit of a nightmare for a lot of people, and I don't think that they know how bad it can get. So I believe in branding the organization. I think you could brand a couple people. You also want to remember that if you're a law firm and you're putting certain members of your team out there, you want to make sure that, like we said, how are you making me feel? If I'm a woman and every single one of your commercials is 5 guys, I don't feel included. I don't feel seen. I don't feel heard. The nuances of my personality are not being communicated. So that's important too. So I believe in, if you're going to run a law firm, run a commercial with various types of people, various personalities. But if you are someone that wants to build a personal brand, you would just sort of keep them separate, and you would build them in the way in which they each have their own value proposition. The business itself might have a value proposition, but then this particular person also has something interesting about them. So that's how I would kind of do it. It's a difficult dance, because at the end of the day, once you put that kind of pressure on a particular person, they might think that they can handle it, and then you've dug yourself in a very deep hole, and you've spent a lot of money on advertising and building a particular brand, and it's very difficult to walk back.
Okay, that's good wisdom on that. Yeah, I haven't heard that perspective before, but that makes some sense. If you're building it all of a personal brand, you better, this is the long run, and it's not going away, and if it's sellable, it's you, right? So very interesting. That makes a lot of sense. What other questions haven't I asked you so far about everything we're talking about? Maybe you can talk about AI. Maybe you can talk about video marketing? I don't know. What comes to mind here that you think would be valuable for the listeners?
I think the world of SEO is going to change dramatically in the next 12 months, as well as everyone's lives is going to change. Um, people say SEO is going to go away, but there's people always need a way to contact you. Whether they're searching for you on a ChatGPT, a Claude, or any of these different things, they still want to find a personal injury lawyer. I don't think the local side of SEO is going to go away anytime soon. If I were running any sort of business, I would really focus on that. I'm amazed by the amount of people that don't just spend a few grand optimizing their Google My Business for even content. And we were talking about reviews earlier, but just content. I mean, if you put content on there and you do it the right way, and over a month, you could 20x your investment very easily. And the amount of people who just don't do that, they don't think about that. The second thing is, to be very blunt, a lot of people don't read anymore. They have trouble reading, particularly with the younger generation. So everything's gotten to these sort of bite-sized video content. And that is going to get worse and worse, I think. So on the SEO side of things, we used to write these, 5 years ago, we used to write these really long form articles. And I think if you're going to do that and put them on your website and try to get the SEO benefits from them, I think you want to make sure that they're very unique in the type of stories and content that you're giving, life stories, anecdotes, how I started a business when I was thinking of killing myself. I was depressed. I beat all the odds. That's a story that an AI is never going to be able to replicate because it has the human element. So I really encourage a lot of people to lean into what makes them unique in their life story, and that's still how people want to connect with you. In terms of media buying, I'm amazed that radio is still doing really well. I've managed over $15 million in ad spend over the past 12 years, but I've worked with about 120 publishers across North America, radio, TV, media buying, all these different things. They all function in a very different way. And the biggest thing that's interesting, well, one of the biggest things is the radio is very popular still. It's actually a great way to get clients, particularly in the home improvement space, legal space, but it requires a very long-term investment. I don't think you see the returns till about 6 months, and a lot of people bail early. So they'll say, it's not working. Well, you need that top-of-mind awareness. I need to hear your brand 7, 8 times before I'm sort of interested in you. And again, what is the unique value proposition? I'm John Smith's law firm. Great, who cares? I mean, a lot of people don't think of that. They don't hire a creative firm to sort of flesh that out. So I think radio is still a great option, but I think it's going to come down to short-form video content and how do I serve that to people? How do I move that through various social channels? I also think the media is still important, even though it's collapsing in the sense that it still has the credibility. So if you're able to find a way to get a great media hit, I could leverage it for you by making it show up on page one every time someone Googles you. I could run it through your LinkedIn. I could run it through social channels all day long, and then you're piggybacking off the credibility of these $100 million media organizations that have been around for 15 years. So I think that's a great way to get a business going. But again, it's really, harkening back to what we were saying earlier, it's creativity. It's what are you doing that's different and interesting, and how are you thinking outside the box? How are you leveraging YouTube? How are you using your titles on YouTube? Various things like that. I just think a lot of people, and I come from a media background, music, podcasting, I think a lot of people are just not creative. They don't put in the time to be creative, and I think it's honestly a little bit of arrogance. I think people think they're more interesting than they are, and I think they're going to connect with people a lot more interesting than they are, and then they get a little bit of a wake-up call.
Great wisdom, everybody. Jordan Whelan is speaking here. GraySmokeMedia.com, GraySmokeMedia.com. Okay, let's chat a little bit about, how do you know when to pay for ads? On what platform, right? At what time in the business, right? Like, give us a little bit of that in these, keywords versus driving into a unique blog post or a unique YouTube video. Like, walk us through a little bit of that strategy for like established companies.
So yeah, that's what I was going to kind of get at, and that's the nuance there, right? Is how established are you? So the idea is, if you've done some sort of marketing before, we're sort of trying to figure out what we learned from it, what it didn't work. It's very industry specific. But if you are a newer person, I would encourage you to start with Google AdWords SEO. I'm still a massive proponent of SEO. I've driven a lot of money for clients, easily over 100, $200 million just from SEO. I work with an insurance company that we got them sold from doing just SEO. That's all we did. It's crazy the amount of people that don't invest in it. They don't even think about it. They think it's hard. It's a very weird industry in that 98% of the people doing it are very bad at it. There's a lot of scammers, a lot of outsourcing. But I would always start with SEO as sort of your foundation. The second thing I would do is I would hire a great AdWords company. That can make a huge difference. If you don't have it managed properly and your competitor's paying $10 a click and you're paying 40, then you are going to get swallowed up very quickly and you're going to see your money vanish. If you are a beauty lifestyle brand, I think it's maybe one of my more controversial opinions. I think the age of the influencer is starting to die. I think a lot of people can see through a lot of these people, their intentions. I think once you've sold me 40 products in the past year, I don't really trust you. So I think that's going to really start to change. I think there's going to be also AI influencers. But when it comes to sort of using Meta, TikTok ads, the various channels that you want to promote through, it does come down to the creativity on the actual creative itself, right? What hooks you in? That alone could lower your cost per click substantially if you just got a little bit creative around working off people's emotions, appealing to them, what is missing in their life. There's a really great book, Edward Bernays? I read that book a little while ago, but it sort of was talking about how he got women to think that smoking was cool, and sort of him understanding the psychology of all that. But it's the management of these different things, these SEO, these AdWords and stuff. If you go with a poor company, unfortunately, it could be the difference between your money going up in flames. You're trusting someone to get you a optimized cost per click, and if that doesn't go well, then you kind of wonder where your money went. In terms of then when you get to that final sort of echelon, you're an alcohol company, you're a lifestyle brand, you're a realtor, and you start buying more traditional media, which is your buses, etc. You want to be strategic about eyesight on those. So if I'm buying a particular billboard, does it light up at night? Is it connected to my business? If I'm a personal injury lawyer, is my billboard near a hospital? Is it near a collision center? If I'm a realtor, do I have a billboard in a random area that I just bought for my ego? Or did I buy it for a particular reason because there's a brand association? There's a lot that goes into sort of the media buying aspect of when people come to me and say, I have $2 million, how do I spend it? There's a lot that goes into that strategically that I wouldn't try to do it in-house. I would check your ego at the door, and I would turn to someone who knows what they're doing, because there are so many nuances and little things in a negotiation that people don't think about.
That's another great answer. Thank you so much for that. It sounds like, hire the who, don't be the how, right? Hire the pros too for Google Ads, SEO, and then also making sure that you have amazing hooks with the creative that you're creating on the things. Otherwise, you're going to probably be paying much higher to try to get the same kind of results. Everyone's talking about Jordan Whelan here, Whelan, Jordan Whelan. So what haven't I asked you that I should have asked you that you want to share with everybody before we go to the lightning round?
Well, one of the things, there's a couple things. The first thing is that one of the interesting things about me is that I, for 18 years, had a chronic illness that I cured naturally last year. I had ulcerative colitis. I was about to lose 13 inches of my colon 2 years ago. I had a doctor basically tell me that I'm going to have a colostomy bag for the rest of my life. And I remember thinking that it wasn't in my life plan, and almost like a higher self, providential moment where sort of someone said, no. And I went home and I sort of got into this whole biohacking space. There's a reason I'm wearing blue light glasses, blocking glasses right now. I got a red light therapy machine. And one of the things that's really interesting is, the amount of clients who I talk to on a personal level who are trying to run a business, their family, friends, everything that goes into just a daily existence, and who don't invest in their health. They don't realize that if they didn't eat that or versus that, they'd have 25% more energy in the afternoon. If they could take that supplement, if they could go do their blood work. And that's the funny thing, we live in this grinded out culture where everyone's supposed to just power through as they destroy themselves mentally and physically. And I found it really interesting over the past year when I worked with certain people. I offer 30-minute coaching on my website, or, sometimes I help people pro bono in my social circle. The amount of people who are trying to run a business and get to that level, which requires a certain discipline and high performance, who eat like crap. They don't invest themselves. They don't meditate. They don't filter their water. They don't do these things. And then that kind of led into the secondary aspect where I started to infuse metaphysics coaching in a lot of what I do. I'm a big fan of Neville Goddard, Napoleon Hill. I'm spiritually connected to various things, Eastern philosophies and whatnot. And so I've started to teach my clients sort of some of these things, how to visualize, meditate, manipulate energy accordingly. And that's something that's kind of left out of the equation. It's starting, we're living in a time where the consciousness in general is sort of rising to this different level, which I think is really great. But that's, I've had to ask clients, what did you eat today? And it sounds so simple, but it's like that is highly inflammatory. You are destroying your health. You are shaving 10 years off your life, and you're never going to be a billionaire if you eat like that. If you treat your body and the people in your life and your brain like that, you will never get to where you want to be. And that's something that I really invest in and I focus on. I spend a lot of time on my health. I don't just run a business. I've released 17 songs in the past 9 months, and it requires a very particular focus that I don't know how I would stay sane if I didn't do these things. And so that's the last kind of piece of the puzzle is it doesn't matter if you make $100 million if you don't make it to 65, if you don't make it to your kid's graduation, if you're spiritually bankrupt, if it was all for nothing. And it sounds trite, it sounds forced, but at the end of the day, it's just so interesting how that's something that hadn't occurred to me until I was in a very difficult place with my health. And the way that story ends actually is I fully cured myself from a disease that I had for 18 years after I was living in and out of hospitals my whole life, on steroids, on pills, and I did it all naturally. And that allowed me to then expand my consciousness about what else is possible, what else can I do with my mind. And I'm really realizing how powerful the mind is. And I really encourage a lot of people to take the time, whether it's just 10 minutes a day, just figuring out who you are, why you're here, what you want to do, what actually is the point of your business. Does it help people? Are you operating from an egoic mind? Are you operating from a higher self? And this is something I've started to infuse in my business, and I want to help people out a lot more because I really come from a place of a lot of struggle. I've had a very difficult life, and I want to impart that wisdom on people.
Man, thanks for sharing. That was awesome. That's definitely a bonus. I flew to Costa Rica about a year ago, and I had my like stem cell and of course all the blood work, and then we did a plasma exchange, and so really invested into my health, and it wasn't cheap, right? Lots of stuff, and it's great, and then also hired for the first time a nutrition coach about 90 days ago now. And actually got serious about the nutrition, right? And I've always ate pretty healthy, but it's just some slight changes. My energy is more consistent now, sleeping better, right? Feel better. I can work out every single day now, right? I don't even have to take days off. I don't feel like inflammation, right? Certain things inflame, and then when you inflame, you don't heal as much, and then when you don't heal as much, you're tired, and all of the things, and you're more likely to get sick, and all the things. So, anyways, just 90 days, it's been really, really great. And every morning I wake up, I have enough energy to work out again, and you just keep doing that. And also just down to the workouts, okay, well, don't do the same workouts every single day. That's part you're going to get injured, right? actually have a plan where you're mixing up your parts of your body and nutrition plan. Like it's all out there. The question is, do you hire the coach, right? I got in a fitness group. Do you follow the plan? Do you track the stuff, right? And then this is basically the same thing you're doing with all the marketing, right? You're hiring the
Yeah.
who. Are they tracking the stuff? What's working? We already know it's going to work. Now we just got to implement the stuff, right? Is that a fair summary, Jordan, to all this?
Yeah, I mean, and how would you say you feel, and how has it helped you, make more money or improve the relationships in your life?
Yeah. I mean, so feel great, right? Because to have more energy, to have more consistent energy, right? Because I've always had a lot of high energy, but definitely don't have the crashes. I feel like and I don't have to go like, I think basically eliminating sugar, right? Like that's been a big one. And I still have the natural fruit, like a mango or, kind of stuff, but like anything else, like the sweet stuff, let's get rid of all of that. So yeah, that's great. And then of course, I think when you have more energy, you can get more done during the day, and then so you can spend more time with the family when it's off. So you don't have to like sacrifice as much or have bleed time in between family time and work time. So that's great. And I feel like just stress, like overall, stressful situations that I can stay more calm. Because my mind and my body is, more at ease, you know what I mean? So you can actually flex with the stress. So yeah, all of those things. But
Good for you, man.
that includes jujitsu as well. I've been doing jujitsu for a year. It's a form of meditation.
Hmm.
That includes, for me, reading the Bible and praying every day. That includes spending time with my family. That includes, we just did a missions trip for a whole week in Uganda last week, putting clean water wells in to bless some of the most vulnerable people. So I'd say it's not like any one thing, but I would say like when you compound these things, even just slight changes, like each additional compounding, I think habit can make exponential difference, right? So it's not just, 10% change on every habit. It's called 15 to 20% every time you compound these habits. Like it's exponential momentum on your health and your well-being and your mindset and those things.
Yeah, it's also, it's a long, statistically, it's a longer life. I worked with a person who was shaving 15 years off their life, and it's like, are you going to get to retirement and enjoy your X amount of dollars if you've punished yourself? Fun comes at a price. I've said that to a lot of people. It comes at a cost. I've paid the cost for a lot of the decisions I made in my 20s that I sort of I'm fixing now, but it comes at a cost. So I'm really proud of you that you've basically looked into that and done the work. It seems like obviously just altruistically, but just on a personal level, and it's going to continue to pay you dividends for a really long time.
Thank you, my friend. Are you ready for the lightning round?
I'm ready.
All right, knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your 20-year-old self and tell yourself to do this one or two things, what's the one gold nugget you tell yourself to do?
Not drink alcohol.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm trying. For a long time I've tried to figure out the cost benefit, and no.
Yeah, that's great wisdom. Question number two, what's the number one book you've recommended the most in the past year?
Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill.
Great book. Question three, what are you most curious about right now?
Metaphysics, Eastern philosophy, Dharma, why I'm on Earth.
Okay, good. It's good to be curious about. Question number four, number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by.
There's a great Neville Goddard quote. It's about I don't know the exact words of it, but it's basically that don't worry about what other people think about you. It's just a reflection of yourself.
Okay,
It's just essentially means that you need to learn why someone makes you feel a certain way, and that's on you.
good. I like that. Next question. Number one way you're using ChatGPT.
This is, I don't know, it's a little embarrassing. I think as a personal coach and almost a little bit of a friend at times, which is interesting. I use it a bit in songwriting too, but just easy data retrieval, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. I think this is the last question. So after all your success, helping all the people you've helped, how do you best stay centered in your values, Jordan, and stay encouraged to charge forward and reach even higher heights?
I made a vow to myself last year that I'll only work with people that I believe in, that I care about, that I could see myself being friends with, that I want the best for their family. I am very strict about that. And I have a 2-strike rule with my business where if you treat me or anyone that works with me with a level of disrespect twice, then we end the contract.
That's great. Yeah, we call them elves versus haves. Elves are easygoing, loving, and fun people. Haves are hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating. And so our core value is we only work with haves. We only work with elves. We don't work with haves. And you can usually figure it out with spending 30 minutes to an hour with somebody. If you have an elf or a have, and just say no to the haves and say yes to the elves, and you'll have a lot smoother sale and more impact with those families that you work with, or those people that you work with.
I like that. It's always like, what's that? My uncle used to say this to me: just watch how someone treats the waitstaff at a restaurant. It tells you everything you need to know about them. So if I'm going to go for lunch with a client, I'm watching the way that they talk to the waiter, but also if they make eye contact with them. If they ask them about their life, their body language, etc. You can sort of read people. I just said I'm at a place with my life where I don't have a problem getting clients, and I don't want to work with anyone I don't believe in, or I don't want to see them succeed. It's an energy exchange on a certain level.
Love it, Jordan. I want to thank you for being on the show. Thank you for sharing a ton of wisdom in this 40-minute interview here. You helped us to think more creatively. You helped us to think about how to connect with our customer, how to market well, and really ultimately hire the who, not be the how, which is hopefully what everyone's gleaning from this. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, would you mind one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
GreySmokeMedia.com, GREY SmokeMedia.com. If you want to listen to my music, which is unrelated, it's Jordan Power on Spotify. If you feel like the two connect, I don't know, I'm in two worlds right now, where I'm doing PR for my business and then also my music. If you want to book a 30-minute call with me, you can prepay on there for that. But if not, you want to reach out to me and just see if we want to work together. I do have minimums that are very specific for certain industries. So, I'm really open-minded.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jordan. I also want to thank all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Build to Billions podcast. We're also streaming on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast as well. We're here to grow with you on our journey from millions to billions, scaling our company and hopefully helping you to scale the same so we can give more or all of it away to help MVPs. I'm Brett Swartz. And if you want to get in touch with us for any highly appreciated exits that are happening, that is our specialty. That is our niche. Businesses, Bitcoin, real estate, multi-million-dollar gains. Contact us. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day, everybody, and we will talk again soon. Bye now.